started. Thank you so much, first of all, to everyone for joining us. I'm Charlotte Taylor and I'm the Communications Manager at the GDC. It's a pleasure to welcome you as always. So just a few pieces of housekeeping from me before we get started with the meat of the session. We are all very familiar with Zoom at this point, but please make sure that you stay muted. You should currently be muted as well throughout the webinar, as well as keeping your videos off. That's until the Q&A section to avoid distractions for our speakers. As always, we encourage you to drop questions, comments, or other reflections that you have into the chat box as we go. So you should be able to find that in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. The GDC team, as well as our speakers, will keep an eye on that. So it might be that we're able to answer questions as we go, but otherwise, as I said, we will have a couple of dedicated Q&A sections to dig deeper. And then finally, as always, we are recording today's session. So that means that we'll be able to share with you the recording as well as the slides, and also any kind of handy tips or links that we mentioned throughout the session. Great, so with that, I'm going to hand over to Herwin Jansen and start sharing my screen. So Herwin leads our innovation workstream at the GDC. He's going to give you a bit of a peek into our digital service catalogue, which hopefully lots of you saw in our latest newsletter, and then run through the agenda as well as welcoming our speakers today.
Thanks, Charlotte, and hello, everyone. So yeah, Gerwin, and like Charlotte said, I've been leading the innovation challenges at the GDC, and yeah, something that we've been working on recently, like Charlotte said, is something that I'm personally very excited about. It's a brand new digital services catalog, really designed for GDC members. So I wanted to use the first minutes of this webinar to give a quick demo, especially to those that haven't seen it yet. Because today we will hear about two digital tools for last mile distributors that have been developed or finessed within the context of the GDC Innovation Challenge. But these are just two of a huge range of digital solutions on the market today that meet various needs of distributors. At the GDC, we aim to remain neutral and to provide a level playing field for last mile distributors to learn about and compare different offerings, whether from service providers like those you'll hear from today. And that's why, with the support from Get Invest, we have launched the first of its kind digital services catalog for last mile distributors, which you can find on our website, the GDC website. The catalog features over 70 digital solutions that are used and reviewed by GDC members. The catalog provides a window into many different digital platforms available to companies like yours. And we hope that will help you identify services that could streamline your operations, increase your business efficiencies, and ensure agent compliance. On the slide here, on the right side, you see a snapshot from the catalog on our website. The catalog will give you a couple of nice features. So first of all, you can search for certain services using keywords in the search bar. Then you can also filter the catalog by priority functionalities. So depending on what kind of digital service you're looking for, you can tick boxes that will unfold once you click on these three main areas that you see on this screenshot. And you can also search by rating, filter all the services by rating. This is an average rating coming from reviews that GDC members have left. So yeah, we'll invite all GDC members, of course, to leave your own review and of course, suggest services that aren't included yet, as we hope that this catalog will keep growing and growing. So we hope that after the webinar, you'll take some time to explore the catalog if you haven't done so yet. And yeah, we still welcome your feedback and suggestions on both content and user friendliness. So if you're struggling to find the catalog, go to the resources tab on the GDC website. Yeah, we'll make sure to include a link to the catalog in the follow-up email coming from this webinar as well. Then let's look at the agenda for today. So in the next hour, or a little bit less than an hour, you will hear directly from one of the winning pilot teams from our latest innovation challenge, Maad and VITALITE Senegal, who have applied to the challenge together as they developed a tool to manage sales agents remotely. They're one of the 5 winning partnerships of our most recent innovation challenge that focused on building resilience in the sector. We launched this challenge in June 2020 with the support from UK8 and their Transforming Energy Access, or T program. In the context of an increasingly digital world, which was of course accelerated by the COVID pandemic, not surprisingly, all the 5 project teams that we've supported in the recent Innovation Challenge have looked at the opportunity for digitalization within their last mile distribution business. Digitalization going from managing credit risk to exploring online product sales, and also remote team management, which is what you'll hear more about today. So what can you expect from the presentations from Maad and VITALITE Senegal today? So as well as a demo of their remote team management tool, they will share about the process for rolling out such a tool, not just across sales agents in Senegal, but also at sister companies of VITALITE in Zambia and Malawi. And as we know, a shiny new tool is only game-changing if users really understand the benefits and are confident and competent using the tool. So we hope to share insights with regards to change management as well. And then we'll be digging into the experience of Maad and VITALITE Senegal as they worked closely together in their partnership. They'll be sharing hopefully their reflections and some key lessons, as well as top tips for other GDC members exploring partnerships with digital service providers. This will be followed by a short presentation from Optimetriks on their tool for last mile distributors. While this was not strictly developed in partnership with the GDC, Optimetriks did work with GDC member upowa under the Innovation Challenge to ensure last mile distributors' feedback was taken into account when fine-tuning the tool of Optimetriks called Field Pro. We'll hear more about how they've integrated these insights coming from last mile distributors to make sure that the tool is really suitable for companies like yours. And as Charlotte mentioned, there will be plenty of time to ask questions. So you might already want to leave your questions in the chat during the presentations of the speakers. And otherwise, we hope we can get to your questions during the Q&A sections in between the presentations. Then, yeah, the last thing I'll do for now is to present to you the speakers of today. So we'll first listen to the team at Maad and VITALITE Senegal. So we're joined today by Jessica, Sidi, and then Frédéric from VITALITE Senegal. Hi again. And then later, when you'll receive the demo from the Field Pro Optimetriks team, you will be seeing Malena and Paul coming in. So without further ado, I now hand over to, I think, Jessica, Sidi, and Frédéric to kick us off.
Thank you all, and happy to be here. I'm the lucky one that can start this presentation, what we put together, Maad and VITALITE here for you guys. So I was asked to tell a little bit about the challenges that made us want an application like Maad provide us. So we are quite a young company in a growth phase. So we encounter a lot of startup problems and how to manage our teams, how to grow, how to keep track. So we wanted to professionalize and especially know what do my agents do? Are they where they are, and do they what they do? So it looks very simple, but it's quite hard to be in a country, and Senegal is not even that big, but from having 100 agents spread out through the country to keep track on what they are doing, it's crucial for a company to grow. So besides very basic needs as check-ins and outs to track hours, It's also necessary to improve our after-sales service by having an application that tracks our agents. We are also able to locate our clients to do the after-sales service. We needed something that could track the performances of our agents, so we can put KPIs in an application. We have to track stock. We have to have an idea about the territorial coverage, because if you need to grow, you need to see where you can grow to. And of course, we have to be sure that the application is on and offline usable. So with those questions, we talked and discussed and brainstormed with Jessica and CD and their colleagues. And then they came with the application. So Jessica, you can show that.
Great. Yeah. So next slide. So the Maad platform is based on the idea that every person who wants to use it really has their own workflow that they're designing. It's based on this idea of having configurable forms. So when Frederique says that what she's really interested in tracking for her organization is when people check in and check out, where people are doing demos, things like that. She's able to come in and very specifically build that kind of data collection into the system. You can think about it like a collection of Google Forms, or you can think about it a little bit like Survey CTO. But we think that we have some additional features built in that makes this a little bit easier to manage operations, operational metrics, KPIs, and distributed field teams in general. So you see a list of the different kinds of data that we collect, geolocations, barcodes, photos, things like that. All of this is online and offline. And then when the agent opens up the phone, they see it directly right there. Next slide. So, this is some of the data that you get out on the other side. You're able to look on the phone at a list of activities that your agents are doing, aggregations of how many sales they're making per day, look at the details of individual form submissions. And then on the right, you see some maps of where people are doing their work, of what kinds of forms they've submitted. We try to make it easy to, once you've set up these forms and this data collection that you're doing, to show you some automated aggregations on a daily or monthly or geographic level to really have a new level of understanding of your operations. Next slide. So I'm going to take over the screen share just to briefly show you what the app looks like. Oh, and I think actually you're going to need to make CD Nyang or Nyang CD a co-host. I can maybe do that myself. Thanks a lot. Great. So I will go ahead and share the screen here. Yeah. So here I have the application pulled up. We talked about the things that VITALITE VITALITE Senegal wanted to track. And here you see kind of a list of different forms that agents can enter in and fill out. If we go up to, for example, the sales and installation form, this is in French, but I think you can probably follow what's going on. People are geolocating themselves. They're scanning the barcode of a battery to identify what it is they're actually, recording. They will select from a bunch of different kinds of kits that they might be handing out, and that will get added up here, and that will get tracked later as sales. So there's a pretty step-by-step process that's pretty straightforward to use here on the app. Once they fill this kind of stuff out, I'm a supervisor here, so I'm able to see things like the full history of submissions. This is check-ins that people are doing for the day. You see a lot of these, but in addition to check-ins, you see things like sales and installation, agent recruitment, a demo. When I look at what's going on there, I can kind of see more information. If I look at a map, I can always kind of zoom into certain areas and maybe say, okay, I want to see more about this. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I can zoom in and see more about any particular area. I can also change the colors to show me kind of which agents are managing which areas. This gives you like a really nice idea of good ownership of different areas across the country for the agents. So that's a quick overview. There's also the idea of performance and objectives. If I want to look at one of my agents and see how they're doing, I can see what kinds of sales they're looking at right now and how that compares to how their projections compare to what I'm looking for. So this is number of sales and amount of sales. All this stuff is configurable. It's really an application that's designed to be used fully online and offline. That's designed to give people the ability to track the specific information they want in these forms, and then to give you a sense of, okay, what's my real-time activity feed, you know, the performance that I have, whether I'm meeting my objectives as an individual, team, or organization, as well as task management, which we haven't implemented as much with VIALITE Senegal. So if you can take back screen sharing, we can go back to the presentation. Great. So, you know, one strategic question, we can look at this map that was generated by the platform and ask ourselves, you know, on the left, we see demos, on the right, we see sales. We see that sales are more concentrated in rural areas relative to the demos that are more concentrated in urban areas. It's an interesting question to ask. Are the urban demos generating those rural sales, or are people doing urban demos because they're easier to do, but they actually should be going to where the sales are? These are things that you can do once you have this kind of data. So yeah, moving on. In addition to working with VITALITE Senegal, we actually scaled up this application to about 100 agents in Zambia as well. Next slide. So they had some additional use cases they wanted to track. They actually wanted to track if their supervisors were checking in with each of their agents per month. So you can see these objectives are being adapted. Now they're not sales metrics, they're number of check-ins that are supposed to be done with a particular reporting line. Next slide. They also wanted to track products from when they're collected in the field to when they come into HQ for repair. So within the application, you can see kind of a series of check-ins with products as they go from agents having them to shops to the HQ repair center back through an agent chain. So, you know, interesting to take the same platform, but to focus on different problems that are important for different kinds of service providers. Next slide. That's just a little side-by-side of what the reporting options look like in Survey CTO plus Google Sheets versus in Maad. It's a little more interactive in our platform. And if you go to the next slide, I'll actually show you what that looks like in a live version. So here I am logged into the platform. I can see some things like where my agents are checking in across the country. If I scroll down, I can see how my agents are doing with my supervisors are doing with checking in with the number of agents per month. This is grouped by, you know, different parts of the country here in Zambia. I keep scrolling. I can see kind of my area coverage in the country. This is what I was mentioning before, and I can look and see how that's divided between different kinds of data being submitted. There's a lot of different forms in this particular project space. I can see, you know, people filling out the timesheets, doing their agent servicing, look at more details of these particular submissions. And this is meant to be a very dynamic and interactive platform. And, you know, I'll just show you one last thing. If I'm trying to monitor people doing their agent check-ins in Copperbelt, I can do this quickly and see, you know, agents that have been checked in with really recently versus others that haven't been checked in with in a long time. I can do these calls. I can, you know, search for people that I'm interested in looking at. And I can even see things here like, oh, the last time this agent was checked in with, it was very far outside of the service area. Maybe I should check in, like maybe this agent is misassigned, right? There's a lot of search kind of visual things that allow you to do light checks on your operations that hopefully facilitate the work that you're doing. So you can take over the screen share again, and we can go back to the presentation.
Well, that means that I am allowed to talk again. I think the most important thing to say also is we needed this application like Maad's, because our usual platform, which follows the sales part, is doing a lot of things, but not the actual work of an agent. It's very focused on sales. So being able now to track the work of the agents helps us really to see what happens. So what we've learned is already gathered into a blog from Gerwin and I think Yvonne, and you can find the link here on Next Billion. It's a digital platform. Probably you will also, oh yeah, I see it's also being put in the chat. So you can find the lessons that we learned, but some things that I'd like to highlight is are we wanted to professionalize, and starting with Maad up in the beginning of our growth helped us really to make strategic choices in how we set up the organogram of the organization, who's in charge of what, how many people a team lead can follow, what should he follow, how can he coach better his particular group of agents under him, how can he see whether the routing that we ask a certain agent to do, whether he's also doing it, and if not, how we can coach him to do it in a better way. We get all of a sudden a lot of data. So we needed to have somebody appointed to read those data and analyze that data, understand that data, but also work with the data for the team leads. So there are agents that are far away in the field. They need to learn how to use the application. So they get a kind of online training and onboarding by our new appointed CDC, as we call him. It's a Coordinator Digital Commercial. So he's doing all the digital part of the sales work. And it's very important because once starting to use the app, it's nice and it's new, but you have also to continue using it. And that's a little bit hard. So we still need to keep boosting and try to find a way on how to get our agents continue using it. So we decided to put KPIs on using the application, and not only to check them, but also to let them being able to show what they do, whether they do outstanding performances or underperformances. We can track them and also reward them accordingly. I think the difficulties that we encountered are, of course, the excuses of agents that their phone is not good, they have no free space, the phone is broken. And that's, of course, a little bit tricky because we are having agents that sell just 2 or 3 solar home systems a month. And we as a company are not able to pay them a phone to use. So we are talking with Maad, and they are very open to help us find solutions on adding extra blocks or extra features in the application. So maybe a geolocalization of an agent can just be uploaded in the system, so that they don't need to have a sophisticated phone to be able to use to transfer data into our system. So I think that's the biggest hurdle for the moment: phone issues and getting every sales registered, also by leads, simple leads. Next slide, and back to Jessica.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'll keep this short because I think it's more interesting to hear directly from the, solar provider that's been using the tool. But for us as a digital service provider, I mentioned this idea that different organizational models require different kinds of data capture, KPI settings, things like that. So it really highlighted the need for a configurable tool. We've moved away from a per agent pricing model towards bucketed pricing, just because the way we understand an individual agent doesn't necessarily map to user price. So we think that these buckets make a lot more sense. In particular, we see that solutions take time to show impact, mostly because it takes time to train people, actually look at the data, get people used to using this. You know, it's a compounding benefit over time. So, you know, we were scared, I think, after the first month that not all the sales were getting recorded, but we definitely saw gains and sort of increased stability within, you know, another couple of months. So we learned to be patient. We know that VITALITE learned a lot about what their agents were actually doing in the field. And we see that with almost all of our partners, that they come in with an idea of how this tool is going to support everyday work, but they learn a lot about the everyday work just by trying to capture it this way. They find out like, oh no, I actually don't have the, you know, the barcode in front of me at this moment in time, or I can't take the photo yet because I haven't gone to the house, or, you know, actually I'm doing some of these demos in a car, not in a fixed location. And, you know, just a lot of things like that come up that help you understand your operations better. So to me, that's one of the most important pieces of creating this tool that facilitates communication between the central office and what's going on in these more remote places. Data-driven management is definitely a skill, and it takes time to develop. We've been thinking about sort of options for coaching and for helping managers be able to use this data, because it's not enough to just put this in front of people. Thinking about how to spot anomalies, how to think in a data-driven way, that's probably the next step for us in terms of what kinds of services we want to provide to our clients. And interoperability, still a challenge. We think there are a lot of options like Zapier, like Google Sheets, that allow touch points between different tools, but these need to be very specifically scoped. You need to think about things like unique identifiers, exactly what API endpoints are available, things like that. So I think, you know, having an interoperable tool is a very detail-oriented kind of question. And it's just something that, you know, we learn and want to highlight for other people who are embarking on these kinds of projects. So that's all I have for now, and I'd love to field questions and mostly direct you towards Frederic.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Frederic and Jessica, for the demo, and maybe even more important, sharing your reflections, your learnings. Sounds like it's been a great learning experience for both sides. Yeah, so the floor is open for questions. I haven't seen questions coming in through the chat yet, but I think the group is also small enough to let people just unmute yourself and share your question with the presenters you just heard from. So I'll pause for a little while and see if there are questions. And otherwise, we got 2 questions that came in during the registrations that I will bring up.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, David.
Hi, yes, I'm David Wanjao from Bits Green Energy in Kenya. We are also a Last Mile distributor, and I think it's very interesting to learn, you know, the lessons from this pilot project. And I think one of the things that I'm very keen to understand is with the phones, with the smartphones used with agents. And I think what I'm trying to imagine is, does the company, maybe VITALITE, provide the phones to the sales agents, the smartphones? And, you know, and how does that work? What's the cost benefit analysis into that? Like, how long does it take to pay back the phone? Or do the agents have to buy their own phones, or are phones used as a reward scheme, especially at the early stage before you start seeing a lot of sales? Because I imagine, and I think it's a good thing that Jessica has said that, you know, they want to avoid pricing model based on agent, because not every agent will actually make good sales per month. Therefore, I just want to understand those numbers, and also to understand from the costing perspective, because it wasn't mentioned, if we were to pilot such a similar tool in Kenya, and how does that look like, and how would what does it take to have that rolled out? Thank you.
I think I can take the first part because, well, I encountered that problem directly. We started with a small rollout just to understand also all the procedures that are going on. So we had our sales managers our team leads that had already a phone that started to use the application. But then when you roll out, you also need their agents to have a phone. And there was a discussion, as you said, David, not everybody is selling enough kits so that we can provide a phone. We started with the regional coordinates then that had a phone from the company, and then under the layer under them, they had, if they needed a phone, we provided like 40% of the price of a phone we pay as a company, and the 60% they can pay of themselves, and then the phone is theirs, and we allow them, we pre-finance it for them, so we allow them to do that in monthly installments, so that they have in the end, even if they stop working for VITALITE, they at least have a paid off nice smartphone, and they can do sales once in a while or regularly. And then with Jessica and Maad, we discussed about those people that are having a phone or not having a phone, if they just could, VITALITE should pay for every form that the salesperson uploads, it will be more doable for us to pay for the application. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'll just add a couple of other thoughts, given that this is a question that comes up a lot. I think Frederick gives a really nice approach for sort of how to buy the phones. In terms of technical considerations, we find that 16 gigabytes is the absolute minimum space for a usable phone. Some people try to use 8 gigabytes and it's too small. And we find that Android 6 is a minimum operating system, that beyond that, we see like very good compatibility. Prior to that, that's a little too old. So, those two guidelines taken together cover about 95% of phones on the market. We see people investing in phones that cost between $50 and $100, and that is perfectly fine for, most of our clients.
Thank you, Jessica, for that addition. And what about the implementation? For example, if we were to test a similar, maybe small pilot in Kenya, how do we use the tools, and how can we go about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think maybe we should share like our standard implementation packages by email after this call. But, typically to get a pilot set up and running, it would cost around, between $1,000 and $2,000 for a 2-month period to set things up. And then you would look at an annual contract of, between $2,000 and $10,000 if you wanted to really go crazy. But
Jessica, I think we can't hear you. Seems like Zoom is filtering out the most important numbers that people want to hear. Jessica, are you still with us?
We could sort of share some of those options with you and in the complexity of what you want to implement. But yeah. Oh. Yeah, I can repeat that. So
yeah, just the ballpark figures you talked about. We missed
is this
those.
better?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's right. Yeah. So typically to set up a pilot, that would be $1,000 to $2,000 for a 2-month period. For an annual license, that would be somewhere between $1,500 and $10,000, depending on what you wanted to do. So yeah, we'll send out maybe some more of our, we'll send out some details about our pricing packages after the call.
There's time to take a few more questions. Anyone else on the call?
Yeah.
Hi, Benjamin.
Hi, how are you? My name is Benjamin. I work with Pawami, which is also a last mile distributor here in Kenya. So my question is around the buy-in. Did you experience challenges with the buy-in or, user challenges? Given that some of the agents that we are dealing with in the rural areas are illiterate or their literacy level is low. So did you encounter such challenges and how did you maybe address that in terms of buy-in and actually using the app to improve performance?
Thank you, Benjamin, for asking. We definitely find challenges because the first thing we encountered was that our agents were thinking that we were checking on them, like spying on them. And then we really needed to make them understand that we are actually there to help them because of the possibility to follow them in the field. We can really coach them better and help them perform better, which in the end helps them to earn more money. So that was the first thing. And on the side of the illustration, I think Maad developed a very intuitive application with not too many words or as little words as possible. Just click on, if you see a toolbox, you know that it's about repairs. If you see like a group with people, you know it's about a demo. So it's very intuitive. So we definitely focused on that to be able to use it for every layer of the population. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
So one more question. I have time for one more. And then we move on with the second part of the webinar. Nope. And then I'll drop the two questions that we received during registrations in the chat. Frederic, Jessica, if you could kindly answer them there, then at least we got these logged. I think the second question, let me post them now. I find personally quite interesting. I mean, during your demo, you showed all the data that the tool is now providing to sales managers and the leadership team. So what are the risks that you see that Last Mile Distributors, so Frederic, maybe you can answer that question in the chat, will rely too much on data coming from these platforms? I mean, there's also value in I guess, interactions with the agents and hearing their stories. So is data the way to go, and how will data inform decision-making at the leadership level in the Last Mile Distributors in the future? So how to strike the right balance of using data and then still having real interactions with agents? Can you answer that one in the chat?
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, super. Thanks. Then we go to the next part of the presentation, and I'll ask Malena. Yeah, I see you've turned on your video, and Paul, you might be joined by Paul to kick us off. Yeah, and tell us all about what FieldPro has to offer.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. We are Optimetriks, and we have developed a tool named FieldPro. FieldPro is a software platform that helps companies digitize and automate any type of field process with mobile-first data collection workflows and real-time analytics. Can we go to the next, please? We got the opportunity to work with upowa for the GDC project. upowa, it's an NGO that enables access to energy in Cameroon via solar technology. And we have gathered here a few lessons learned from the project that we believe is key to share with you. First of all, I would like to mention that with this project, we were able to identify what were the key functionalities that a solution should have in order to satisfy the needs of the last mile distribution sector. Secondly, it's the need to have a dedicated training to ensure adoption, especially for the field users. And the third lessons learned, also I could mention that it is very relevant to have and to start with a simple use case to identify what could be the opportunities and the barriers in adoption from the organizations that decide to adopt a tool. So you can try to manage risk from there and see how you can scale up, if you can scale up or not with the tool. And last but not least, I think it's very important to mention that for organizations that wants to adopt a digital solution, it's very important to have internal process documentation, because this will help the service providers to evaluate the adaptability of the solution to their processes. And I believe it's very important to mention that part. So how we adapt our tool based on what we learned from the project. We basically, what we did is to create a simplified version of our product. This simplified version will work as a first step in digitization, because we know there are many organizations, companies, initiatives that they are not using any digital solution, and this way of going from paper to digital can be a bit difficult, and so this is why we believe it's important to have a simple version and start with basic use cases. This is why the starter plan that we created involves use cases such as field force monitoring and offline mobile CRM. And it also provides predetermined performance dashboards that we have built with basic KPIs that will allow the client to follow up on basic KPIs on performance and on how their field force is working. Can we go to the next slide, please? So our tool, as I mentioned, we identify key functionalities, and what FieldPro provides, what FieldPro offers, is real-time synchronization between mobile and web app. The fact that our tool can work 100% offline, because we know that Last Mile Distributors goes to rural areas and they don't have connectivity, network connectivity there. So the offline mode is very relevant for them. Also is the fact that with FieldPro, that field agents will not consume all their data. And also another important point to mention is the fact that our design is very user-friendly, and which enables an easier adoption from the field users. Next slide. Here I can show you a few use cases that we have identified that are relevant for this sector, that we can mention, for example, field force monitoring, offline mobile CRM, sales automation, and mobile inspections. Next slide, please. Next, just to go fast and leave time for the demo. Next, last but not least. And just to mention that, well, we've been working in Africa for around 4 years now. We have a unique presence there. We have clients and projects in more than 25 countries. And this has helped us to keep adapting and keep building our tool to be able to provide a good solution and to cover the needs that our clients have. Now I would like to give to Paul the floor so he can have give a demo of our tool. Paul, we cannot hear you. I don't know.
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, perfect.
All right. Yeah, so I wanted to show you the app. So the app is on the Play Store, Android. So now we have 10,000 active users on the app, mostly sales rep, merchandiser, field users with different roles. So I'm going to show you very quickly the experience on the mobile app. So the first thing that you will do that allows also the offline mode is really to load everything. So your list of customers, your list of workflow and products. Okay. Then when you will see on the map, you'll have the ability to create a customer with different fields that are customizable to segment your customers, take pictures, automatically capture location, and different attributes. And this is quite customizable. You can as well filter on the type of customers or last visit date or whatever. If I go in a shop, in a customer, I will be able to view the previous activities that have been done, so the previous visits. So that goes in the sphere of the CRM, where I'm able to see did I did a sale or something. I will be able to view some KPIs for this outlet, okay? Like how many times was it visited, days to last visit, the strike rate, and so on. So this is really much to give analytics understanding of where you visit the customer, what happens. Then we have this geo check-in feature that actually enables you to submit an activity only if your location is within 50 meters of the shop. Okay, so now it's in yellow. I can actually report. So it's a very simplified workflow, as we say. Did I make a sale? Yes or no? Comment, picture, and submit. So it's really the basic to measure the basics, as we say. Then I will check out, and my submission would be automatically sync. But I can do everything offline actually. So same if I have lack of data or something, I can work. In the dashboard section, same, I have a couple of insights to show me my customer in the portfolio, the coverage, and basically some KPIs to understand what I'm doing. Now I'm going to quickly show you the web app, so you have the full view. So with one of the first things we said is really the GPS tracking. So that will be let me reload actually. Let me reload. So the web app is cloud-based. Is also where you can actually manage the solution and view some reports. So I wanted to show you a couple of things. So that will be the map where you have your customer, you have different legends to see also per last visit date, users or something, and where you have the ability to see the details for each customer in terms of pictures and what they have done in terms of visit and stuff. Okay. Here in the dashboard, we have a couple of reports, for example, which will tell you in real time, customizable as well, filterable by date, team, or something to show you essentially your performance of your team in terms of the basic KPIs that we highlighted, how many new customers they created and things like that. All the dashboards can be downloaded in PDF or Excel. You can as well measure the time worked, and you can easily manage your user, your list of customers, and everything. I wanted to show you the GPS tracking. Let me, because that's first and useful. So GPS tracking will actually, on here, you will see, so that's what a user did during the day, okay, from his starting point to the end of the day. And each red dot is actually a customer that has been visited, okay, where you can see it here. For example, here, you can see the customers that was visited, okay? And the activities that were done also, if they made a sale, yes or no. So that's the GPS tracking. And with that, I think it's, well, I could go longer, but I don't have so much time. So just to finish the starter plan, it's really a simplified version. We believe it's the first step towards the digitalization strategy. So we've made it such that there is no setup fee. It actually costs zero to deploy because there is pretty much templates, relying on templates that can be easy to customize. So for us, it's something we can deploy instantly. And we are just living with, as a software as a service model, a very small license fee of $10 per user per month. But yeah, no setup fee. And with that, I leave some time for any questions you may have.
Thanks for that demo, Paul, and thanks, Malena, also for sharing your learnings coming from the project. There was one question that was shared a little bit earlier on the chat by Eric. Eric, if you're still here, you can share your question with the team. It's about the training of agents, I assume.
I guess it was for the previous presentation, but I could ask it. I can ask it after if you want.
Yeah, so we'll now give time to the Optimetriks team to answer questions. So I'd be happy to also have their views on your question, and then I'll ask the Maad and the VITALITE team to share the answer on the chat, so we give everyone an equal chance. So your question, Eric, was about how to go about training, right? Do you want to elaborate on it?
Well, I think there were some questions on the chat about training, using the app for training. So I was just curious. I guess it's an open question.
Yeah.
And how people have gone about using the app for training agents and Salesforce.
Yeah. Thanks. So Paul, Malene, if you could answer it here, then I'll ask the others to answer it on the chat. Yeah.
Yes, sure. So we don't have a quiz or things like that. Of course, it requires, but the essence really of such tool is to give a framework for your sales agents not to behave funnily and to kind of operate within a kind of processes. Like, for example, if you have to manage mobile money agents, you want to make sure you do certain things in a consistent way, like checking the presence of some tariff poster, checking the performance. So I think really the way you kind of do the trainings that you give a structure for the field user who know they are busy, they have many things to manage, to kind of operate as per the guidelines and as per the checklist defined. So that's the way you kind of structure the activities. So that's our answer. Our clients have not expressed so far the need really to do like quiz or things like that. It's really more defining execution templates, I would say.
Thanks. We'll have time for one more question. I haven't seen new questions coming through the chat, so here's your chance to speak up.
Yeah, I have a question for like both Maad and Phil Pro. Like how do you? Because I feel like you can make sales with both platforms, right? My first question is that the case? And if that's the case, then how do you integrate with like pay-go providers like Angaza, like the platforms that kind of like have this kind of like the loan management system, like Angaza or pay-go ops and things like that. So like if your applications do sales, how do you integrate, or do you also do you also like have integration with solar manufacturers? So like do you as a client do you need to use Angaza or pay-go ops, or like you don't need to use them if someone decides to use your platforms?
Wow. Good question, thank you. Before answering, I actually forgot on the training part. On our app, we have document sections where you can upload videos and brochure. So that can serve as a kind of repository for training documents and materials that are up to date and not somewhere in a WhatsApp group. So that's actually our answer for the kind of having internal storage on the app of training documents. Now, to answer your question, actually with upowa, they had their legacy system and 50,000 customers already on board, so it was quite heavy. And for them, clearly the requirement was to integrate. So we actually did the first integration was we create customers on our platform because for them their mobile app was quite weak. It was actually a no-code mobile app built on AppSheet. So with poor design and limited offline. So we said, they were interested in using us as the front end to kind of, collect information about the customers, but then shipping the customer information into their whole system, complicated system of loan management, token generation, and all of this. We cannot do as much as Angaza for the loan management itself. We are not a loan management platform. There is a whole area of complexity. but we can perfectly integrate and send data. We actually integrate with ERPs, financial service providers, I mean, different type of system. So what we recommend if you have already some tech stack and something is really, I mean, and I think if you think of your strategy for digital, it's better sometimes to use specialized tools that can talk to each other rather than try to have everything with one platform. But of course, some tools are better at integrating. So it's clearly a prerequisite when deciding to implement. So yeah, I mean, for us, we could do the first type of customer registration and then, but otherwise for the sales, if we work for consumer good manufacturers, it's simpler for the sales because it's like direct sales, non-sales, or order and delivery. We don't have that complexity of the loan where you need to kind of check that you've received the mobile money payment and all of that. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, just in time, because I'm afraid we'll have to wrap up. I hope this answered your question, Eric. And then if the Maad team still want to share their thoughts, then go ahead and use the chat. Then I'll hand over to Charlotte to wrap it up. Let me just say that I find it very insightful, the webinar, and I hope for all GDC members and others on this call, you've learned a lot. Yeah, I wish you good holidays already from my side.
Thanks very much, Herwin, and thank you to all our speakers today. So quick polls, quick poll fire round just before we wrap up and close. We'd really like to know a little bit more about how you found today, how useful it's been, whether you're looking at leveraging some of the learnings that you've heard about today, or if you might want to connect with some of the service providers. So you should see 3 polls in front of you. Just scroll down to see poll 2 and 3. Yeah, so I'll leave that open for a couple more seconds. Any feedback that you can provide is always really appreciated. And just a reminder while you're completing that we will share the various links that we've discussed and resources today. So we'll be sharing our digital service catalogue. We'll also include the link to the blog that Frederic mentioned in the follow-up to this webinar, along with the recording. If you are keen to connect with any of the service providers that you've heard from today, their contact details are also available on their website, so you can get in touch with them directly.
Or also for experience, they also will they can contact me directly, just not for the provider side, but for the experience side. They also are like, they can also contact me directly.
Thanks very much, Frederic. That's a really generous offer. Definitely take that up. Okay, so yeah, while we're just leaving that open, I can see not everyone's answered yet, so a few more responses would be much appreciated. This is the last GDC webinar of 2021. So thank you so much to all of you who have attended today. Lots of you are regular attendees at our webinars. We really hope that you found them useful. We're looking forward to seeing you at our webinars in the new year. We've already got a couple planned on e-commerce, on looking at different models for scaling up, but as ever, we're really keen to hear from you about what you would find most useful. So if you do have feedback or thoughts on resources, webinars, or other kinds of knowledge products that you'd like to see from us, please just let us know and we'd be happy to consider how we can build them into our plan for next year. Thank you very much. I think we can close the poll now. Thanks, Jess. Okay, so a big, yeah, thanks from the whole GDC team, and I hope that you have a good festive season for those of you who will be celebrating. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, speakers.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.